So there is a new addition into the Groundhog Day cinematic universe, and that movie is Palm Springs, which is a movie that I didn't have any expectations for. It came kind of out of nowhere. I didn't see any news about it. I didn't see any hype around it. It just sort of came out and then everyone was talking about it. And to be honest, it was fine.
Standing on the precipice of something so much bigger than anyone here. But always remember, you are not alone.
I don't think that we met. I'm Sarah.
Niles.
Hi.
This isn't a movie I would go out of my way to watch, ever. But because of the hype it was getting, because how many people were loving it, how many great reviews it was getting from critics and fans alike, I decided to check it out. Now, again, this isn't a movie that I would normally be into, because Groundhog's Day type movies aren't necessarily my thing. I mean, Groundhog's Day, the original with Bill Murray, is a fine movie about a guy getting trapped in a time loop on Groundhog's Day. And then you got Edge of Tomorrow with Tom Cruise, which is kind of hit and miss. And then that embarrassing Naked movie starring Marlon Wayans that's set on a wedding day. And then you have this, which is coincidentally also set on a wedding day. But not only is the Groundhog Day formula just not, for me particularly, I don't find it that interesting. There's not a whole lot that you can do with it. But Andy Samberg is somebody that I've never been particularly into. He's always kind of had this loud man shtick, and sometimes it's funny, sometimes it feels satirical and edgy, and sometimes it works, but most of the time it just comes off obnoxious and loud and annoying. I know obnoxious and annoying are the same word, but whatever.
No, I already have a tattoo.
What? Where? Why? How? When?
I will never talk about it again.
But in this movie, he actually dials that back quite a bit, which I appreciated. Again, he's not usually for me, but he gives a pretty understated performance here, and it's a pretty likable one. I actually really enjoyed him in this, and I'll say that he's probably my favorite part about it. Not just his performance, but that character as well. The movie is basically Andy Samberg and this girl named Sarah, and they're the two main characters. They get stuck in this time loop, and Andy Samberg has been in there for years. Who knows how long? He can't even remember what he did before the time loop he got stuck in. And he's sort of the spirit guide for Sarah. She's just getting into this, and so he's sort of guiding her through it because he's already gone through it all. And that character is incredibly interesting to me. A jaded, cynical, nihilistic dude that's stuck in this never-ending cycle of repeating the same day over and over again. I love that idea, I love that character, I love the concept, and I loved his character arc overall, having Sarah kind of reintroduce him to the real world in a sense. He through her, wants to get back to the real world instead of staying in this infinite time loop where everything is just kind of comfortable for him now. That's a great idea and a great character and really nice execution on that front. However, most of this movie is just kind of blah. There's not much else to talk about, honestly, because it is just very surface level or mediocre. And that's kind of the nutshell review of this. Aside from Andy Samberg, nothing particularly works well or hinders the movie in any particular way.
Good day so far?
Today, tomorrow, it's all the same.
You! What is going on? Hey, get out of the water!
Guess you followed me. It's one of those infinite time loop situations you might have heard about.
And that kind of starts with the story. Again, this Groundhog Day formula is just, it's fun, it's a fun idea, but there's just not that much to do with it. As you can tell from the 4 or 5 movies that exist that I've seen, they all have a sort of similar presentation. The guy gets stuck in the time loop. At first he's in disbelief, and then he starts doing whatever he wants, and then he gets sad, he starts committing suicide and trying to get out of it, yada, yada, yada. It's all kind of the same formula, and this one doesn't really deviate from that, or it doesn't have any really new ideas either. There is a couple fun moments where they pretend that this wedding is being rigged and there's like a supervillain behind it, and Andy Samberg finds a bomb in the cake. That's like a fun moment, and there are some fun moments like that where they're just like doing whatever they want. That's sort of the appeal of these kind of movies, and it has a couple good moments like that. But for the most part, it is just another Groundhog's Day. If you've seen one, you've seen them all at this point. They don't have any new fresh ideas really. And that's my biggest issue with this. But not only that, but the story itself is just not that compelling. It's set on a wedding day, and Andy Samberg meets this girl named Sarah, and they have a romance. And it's like the most bare-bones generic romance ever. You see Andy Samberg, and he is kind of going about this day, and you get the sense that he may know that he's stuck in a time loop very early on because he seems to know what people are going to do at any given time. And then Sarah gets pulled into it. And you immediately know that it's going to be a romance. It's an incredibly predictable romance. But the way that they go about the romance isn't that interesting to me, nor did I really connect with the Sarah character, which is one half of the romance. Her as a character is literally just someone that doesn't deal with their issues in a healthy way. She's kind of childish, and that's all her character amounts to. She doesn't really even have a character arc. There's one moment in the third act low point comes around, and instead of dealing with her issues, she just runs away from them, and it's treated as if that was like the right move for her, because then she kind of finds out how to escape the time loop. It's incredibly bizarre, and that third act low point is very forced. It doesn't feel like it's earned. It doesn't come naturally at all. And it comes off the heels of an incredibly predictable plot twist in which you find out where Sarah is waking up every morning, and it was like spelled out in like the first 30 minutes, and it's incredibly predictable. And then she wakes up and then for some reason remembers that she was in that room, even though I don't know why you would forget. It's incredibly bizarre. And once she remembers who she was with, then she throws a temper tantrum and runs away. She's just not that likable or interesting, and I don't know why Andy Samberg, his character, would connect with her other than she's the only other person that can remember anything after the day ends.
I drove all the way back home to Austin, and I still woke up here.
One time I smoked a bunch of crystal and made it all the way to Equatorial Guinea. It was a huge waste of time.
But there is another character stuck in this world that can remember the cycle, and that's J.K. Simmons. His character is very angry at Andy Samberg for getting him into this situation where he can't watch his kids grow up. He's stuck, and so he keeps wanting to take revenge on Andy Samberg. But this character has so little to do and so little to drive the story forward. I don't feel like he was that necessary. J.K. Simmons gives a pretty fun performance. I liked him in this, but a lot of his scenes consist of just flashbacks. He's not actually in it that much and driving the story forward in the present in the story. You see him torturing Andy Samberg in a bunch of flashback scenes. You see him shoot him with like a bow and arrow early on. And then you have an incredibly forced sequence where he basically spells out the thematics of the movie to Andy Samberg's character. Then he disappears until an end credits stinger. He's just not that interesting of a character, and they don't do enough with him to justify him being in this in the first place. So why is he in this? You could have just made this a romance or a revenge story. Just do one or the other. Having both makes this movie feel like it's bloated, even though there's not that much going on.
I can't keep waking up in here. Everything that we are doing is meaningless.
I hope it's not all meaningless.
At least you have each other. Nothing worse than going through this shit alone.
Plus, this movie's just generally not that well made. It's competent, but it's not stand out in any way. So when you have a story that's very generic, very trite, and a love story that just doesn't really work because you don't connect with one half of that love story, then there's nothing else to latch onto. Like I said, it's not that well made, it's not that great looking, it's a lot of just shot, reverse shot, and the color grading sometimes is good and sometimes it looks ugly. So in the end, this is just a movie that feels like wasted potential. It feels like it has an interesting idea in the form of Andy Samberg's character guiding another character through a time loop, and it just does so little with it that it's frustrating. And at the end of the day, it's not that fun to watch either. It's not particularly funny despite casting comedic actors and having a comedic tone. It's just not that funny. It feels kind of lowbrow at a lot of points. Like I said, there are some fun moments done with this Groundhog's Day formula, but aside from that, it's just not that special or interesting to me. So I'd probably give it a 6, solid 6 out of 10. If it sounds interesting, if you like this Groundhog's Day formula, then you'll probably like it more than me, but I just didn't connect with it in any way, shape, or form. So that's that. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.